Well, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today I'm here with my associate trainer Amber Matusik and her horse Legolas. And we're just going to do a full lesson on him once again, let you see how he's developed since our last lesson on video. All right, take it away. Go large in the walk. As always, no matter what level we're working a horse at, or up to, we start at the same place in the full stretch in the walk, letting the horse warm up. So that always remains the same. And go ahead and let him stretch in the walk. Very nice. All the way down. Very good. And just continue large in the walk. Keep that big swinging active walk going, stretching all the way down. Let him unfurl all the way to the buckle. Like that. Note the big overreach in this horse. Once he stretches down, he really starts to swing. Very nice. Staying in the stretch down the center line and leg yield to the left. Remember once again that the exercises always come in the same order. Leg yields, then shoulder ins, then haunches in or half pass. In all three gaits. That's a very good leg yield. He's stepping, reaching through the body, yet leading slightly with the shoulder throughout. That's what we're looking for. Just staying in the stretch. Very nice. And shoulder in down the next long side. Still in the stretch. For people to understand is that you do not have to shorten a horse up to do lateral work. In fact, quite the opposite. It's not what you want to do at all. You want to keep the same length of stride. So our goal ultimately is keep the horse in the same big step throughout all our lateral movements, so that when we ask for them, the horse should not shorten up. And you'll notice that she's riding with her hands a little wide there. That's perfectly normal for working horses in the stretch. She got a little resistive there, and she had to get him through and off her leg a little bit, so she had to take a little contact, and she just widened her hands rather than shorten the reins all up. Very nice. One more time down the next long side. That was good correction. Good, much better that time. No loss of rhythm. Notice the step once again now is as big as it was in the walk. That's what we're looking for. Like that. Very, very nice. And let him stretch all the way down again and change the rein across the diagonal. Big swinging walk. So as we saw, the first one was a little irregular. Second time in the shoulder in, it was good, had a good rhythm, good bend, so we just move right on. One of the biggest mistakes people make is to just do things over and over and over again. Even if you don't get what you're looking for, doing it over and over and over again is not going to solve the problem. We're looking for little improvements each day, but we have a lot to go through, so we've got to keep moving forward and not get hung up on any one thing. Down the center line, leg yield to the right. And you see once again how she just has her hands wide there a little bit. He got a little stumbly there, hit a bad spot in the footing, I imagine. So she just widened her hands to take up the slack, and she puts him back into the stretch. But the leg yield was very nice. He led with the shoulder. That was all good. Keep him in the stretch, and now down the next long side. Shoulder 4. That got a little shortened up, so we'll repeat that one more time. Change your whip to your inside hand. And again, shoulder in down the next long side. Very nice. Now you'll notice that we're working in a big ring here rather than a dressage ring, which we do work in sometimes with this horse, but someone asked me the other day in a question that they said their horse couldn't canter in a dressage ring. Well, that tells you the horse is too weak to canter on that small a circle. So with these big horses that we have today, that was very nice. Keep that big stretch in the walk going. Now lengthen the walk down the next long side and then develop the working walk across the short end and then again shoulder in down the opposite long side. So as I was saying, with the big horses, if they can't do a circle in the canter, that is a 20-meter circle, then they're just too weak to be able to do that. You simply have to work them in a bigger arena. So most of the big horses today, I prefer working in this size arena. This arena is 200 feet by 80 feet, which gives us a little bigger circle to work in. So now she's going to ask him to come up, find her working walk. That is, how high can we bring the pole without dropping the back? You see he's gotten a little too high-headed there, so she's going to soften him until he relaxes. There he goes. Not making a big deal of it. She's not going to start beating him up and demanding that he come on the bridle. Remember, that the horse come on the bridle depends on whether the horse is lifting its back or not. So if you're having to force your horse down onto your hands, there's something seriously wrong with what you're doing, which means the horse is probably hollow. If you're having to use draw reins to keep your horse's head down, the horse is probably hollow. If you're having to use a severe bit to keep the horse's head down, the horse is probably hollow. Solve the hollow problem and you won't have to ride in those kind of bits. That was very nice. Now stretch all the way down there. So he had a little trouble getting into that coming up, but once he did, the shoulder in was really quite nice. Let him stretch all the way down again and change the rein across the diagonal. Good. Let the neck out further in the stretch in the walk. There, like that. Good. Now, since that last one was a little difficult for him, we're going to come back and do one more shoulder in the stretch before we bring him back up on this side. So remember, our goal is to keep the exact same gait. Once we have the horse over its back, our goal is simply to find how high we can bring the pole without the back dropping. Depending on the horse's conformation and strength, that will be different with every horse. And it will be different as the horse develops. This is a youngster who's going into his second year of training now. He's just beginning to come up. Beautiful. Very nice there. Good rhythm and good band. You see how much more easily he does this. Now, as you come through here, just gradually take a little more contact and bring his pole up a little bit, establishing him in that working walk and shoulder in down the next long side. Now this was a horse that when she got him had been broken in the neck, and we'll notice that he can now come up and flex at the pole without breaking back in the third or fourth vertebrae in the neck. Now we can see that that shoulder in has sort of shortened him up a little bit. So we need to drop the neck forward a little bit, let him get longer in the neck. And then again, shoulder in down the next long side, trying to keep the neck a little bit longer so that his step can stay a little more active. So you could clearly see how by bringing his pole too high, all of a sudden the step became very sort of shortened and stifled. Now again, shoulder in. So that tells us that this pole was too high for that level. For his level of development, that is. Good there. Now look at how much better this shoulder is. Very nice. Much better that time. Good, now let him stretch all the way down again. We want to reward him for that since he was able to do that. Change the rein again across the diagonal, lengthening the stride in the walk. Develop the working walk again and shoulder in down the next long side. Try not to let his pole come so high this time. So you could see the action there as his head came up, how he started to slow down behind. So she had to activate him a little bit, get him a little more through. There, much better shoulder in now. A little too wide an angle, let him come back to the rail. About there, there we go. Very nice now. Now turn down the center line here and half pass to the right. So in the half pass now is the first movement in which the horse is going to move into the direction of the bend. See how she's going to bring him around, keep him around her inside leg, and then begin the half pass. But just like in the leg yield, the half pass has to lead very slightly with the shoulder. That's very good. Now he's just developing these exercises, so this is the hardest thing he's going to do in the walk. Very nice. And then let him stretch all the way out again after that. So all the way down, increase the swing in the walk a little more. Go ahead and circle there in the walk. Work on that stretch in the walk there for a moment. There we go. So once again, as we go through these lessons, watch how everything that happens affects the back end of the horse. That's the point we're trying to make here to everyone, is get your eyes looking at the back end of the horse, and when something goes wrong, look how ill it affects the gait itself. That's what we're trying to avoid. And again, bring him up a little bit now, and find your working walk and shoulder in down this long side. Much better shoulder in now. Have a good rhythm. Turn by the center line here and half pass to the right. Now the reason we do it like this is we can keep the bend around our inside leg. This horse is just beginning half passes, so we wouldn't want to start with the horse straight. We want to start with him bent already so he understands what it is we're trying to do. Very nice. Like that. We can clearly see he's keeping the bend. That was really good this morning. A couple more steps. Now he's usually very difficult in this direction, so that's a good improvement. Go ahead and let him stretch all the way down again. So once again, we come back to the stretch. Now, as a horse develops and becomes stronger, we don't have to go back to the stretch so much. But remember, this is a young horse only in his second year of training and just beginning to develop real working gaits and begin to think about collection. So we come back very often and reward him, let him stretch back out. And some days are different. Today it's a little cooler here for the first cool day we've had in a while, so the horses are feeling good and wanting to move a little bit. Very nice stretch now. Once again, develop the working walk. So that's about as high as we'd like his pole to be, is about there. And ask him to soften in that working walk, go large. Keep the working walk as you go large, and not from this long side, but the following long side coming back towards us. Let's try a counter change of hand in the half pass. So this will be the most difficult exercise for this horse, and we're going to ask him to half pass from the rail towards the center line, then change the bend and half pass back in the opposite direction. Walk is looking better now. He's starting to stabilize in the bridle. And also notice how we haven't tried to force the horse to stabilize in the bridle. Every time he's come a little resistive, we go back to the stretch rather than trying to force his head over. Good. Now that working walk is starting to look good. Look how the whole top of the neck is lit up, and we have a nice big step that we had before, and his pole is not so high as it was before when we countered a little resistance. Very nice. Very nice. Now change the bend and back to the left. This is only the second or third time he's done this, so this is really pretty good for him. A little bit fussy there, but that was really good. Very nice. And you got a clear change of bend. Very nice. Now let him stretch all the way down. We want to reward him for that. Really open up that swinging walk again. Let it really swing and lengthen down the next long side. A little bit more active. You can still step a little bit more actively. There you go. Keep that big overreaching step like that all the way down. One last time. Now, develop the working walk again. Very nice. We see how softly he came up into that this time. Now, serpentine of 3 loops in that working walk. Notice there was almost no change of rhythm that time as she brought him up. And once again, notice he's flexing at the pole and not back in the neck. So this horse had to do about a year of stretching to heal his neck before we could bring him up. So if you have a horse that breaks back in the 3rd or 4th vertebrae, know that you need to do lots of stretching work with him and let those ligaments and tendons in there heal so the neck can stay together in one piece. Otherwise, it's like having a short circuit in your wiring all the time. Very nice. Very nice working walk now. Change across the diagonal and let him stretch all the way down one more time in the working walk. Which is just what you would do in a dressage test. Always remembering that your walk is a coefficient of 2 exercise, and so many people ignore the walk, and their scores could be so much higher if they had a good walk. And of course, the walk tells how everything else is going to go generally as well. All the way down that stretch. Look how the walk overreaches as it stretches down. That's what we're looking for. Develop the working walk again as you reach the short side. And once again, that time he came up quite nicely without any resistance. Very good right there. Very nice. And working trot rising. First on a circle there. Now once again, you notice that we didn't make a big deal about him lifting his head a little bit as she made that transition. So we never worry about the transitions between the gaits until we're sure we have the horse really good in the gaits themselves. Now, as I said, it's a little cooler here this morning than it has been in the past, so horses are a little fresh. Wanting to canter a little bit, no big deal. Very nice. And go ahead and work him into the stretch on the circle there. We want to be sure we have the stretch before we start bringing him back up in the other direction, just like we did in the walk. Just a little more active trot. You could swing a little bigger. Very nice, like that. Change across the diagonal in the stretch. We want to be sure we have that on both sides. And go ahead and stretch on the circle here in front of us. All the way down. And notice how she's using her hands kind of wide there just to take up the slack in the reins as we work the stretch. Get swinging over his back before we start to take contact, or that is to bring his head and neck up into the working position. Very nice. Change back across the diagonal in that stretch. A little bit deeper, get your contact a little closer. You're throwing away the rein a bit too much. And one more circle there in the stretch. Now, just a note on the stretch and how we work our week. The first day that we have the horses back, our Monday, so to speak, we usually just stretch the horses and do nothing but that. Then the next day we start to bring them up. So remember, horses can't work at their highest level of performance every day. That's what happens to all these poor horses that are being, thrown into dressage rings and shows week after week after week. They just burn out, their back's hollow. You can't expect any athlete to work at his peak level all of the time. They will just burn out. And that's when injuries occur. Very nice. Oop, just hit a bad spot in the ring there. One more circle there, a little more active. This is a very big horse with a lot of thrust. If he hits a bad spot in the ring, he sometimes loses his back end. Very nice. Now bring him back up and begin to develop your working trot. And go large. Notice how nicely his head and neck came up that time without any change of rhythm, without any fussiness. That tells me he was warmed up enough to be able to do it. Keep that active working trot just like you have it there. Go large and turn by the center line at the top and leg heel to the left. Very nice. So that was good enough. We can move on. Change the rein across the diagonal. And after you change across the diagonal, by the center line, and again, leg heel to the right. Now you'll notice that I always use the word by the center line at this level because I always want people to keep the rhythm. I don't care at this point whether they hit exactly the center line. That would be a very tight turn for a horse of this size. So keeping the rhythm is much more important than whether you can be very accurate in the horse's early stages of training. So about like that was about right for this horse. If she tried to turn on the center line, he wouldn't have made it without losing the rhythm. This is a very big horse. Very nice. Beautiful. Now, a little bit of a lengthening of stride down the next long side. Might want to be on the inside track a little bit. Quite a few horses have worked in here already today. So. Very nice. And a little shoulder in down the next long side, still in the trot rising. Notice this is still all part of the warm-up process. You must think also that, when the horse's early stages of training, we kind of have to warm up each gait individually, so to speak, like we did with him. We stretched his walk, then we stretched his trot, then we started bringing him up in the trot. Very nice. Change the rein across the diagonal. Keep that trot right where you have it. And shoulder in down the next long side. Now, if you go back and look at the earlier tapes of this horse, you'll see that his pole has become much higher. He has much more complete flexion now at the pole that we're able to maintain most of the time. And he's not bending over in the neck. Good rhythm in that and good position. Very nice. Now lengthen a little down the next long side. In the beginning, I'm never looking for the biggest lengthening, just to get an impulse through the body of the horse and let him open his stride just a little bit. Very nice, just like that. Stretch again on the circle there. So look how beautifully he's flexing at the pole now. So we give him another little stretch. Remember that when horses develop, if we're going to develop them, if we keep them tight, the muscles tight all the time, there's no blood flowing through the muscles. So it's why it's so important to the horse's development to come back to the stretch and let the blood flow back through those tissues. Once again, bringing the nutrients that help the muscles grow. If we keep the muscle tight all the time, that's never happening. Beautiful. Now bring him back up again, developing the working trot. Stabilize him there. Beautiful. Now working trot sitting and go large. So notice that we fully warmed up his back before we started sitting. The biggest mistakes people who are trying to ride dressage do is they spend too much time sitting to the trot and ruining their horse's backs. Especially if the horse's backs aren't up. They should never be set on. Beautiful. Go large in that trot. Keep him right there. Now we'll do the same sequence that we did before, starting with the leg yield. So down the center line, leg yield to the left. When the sitting trot feels correct, you can feel the horse lift you. It's like sitting on a surfboard and, catching a wave and being carried forward. You feel the horse carry you rather than feel like you're catching up all the time to the horse or you're sitting in a hole, which is what it feels like when horses are hollow. Very nice. Change the rein across the next diagonal and lengthen rising. Be sure and have him straight before you start the lengthening, very straight. When we lengthen the stride, a horse must be very straight, otherwise if they start off crooked, they're probably going to get a little skip in their beat somewhere. Very nice, that was good. Again, working trot sitting, by the center line, leg heel to the right. So you can have a beautiful trot now. And once again, compare this tape when you can to the one earlier tapes of him and look at how much more thrust, that is push off the ground, he's beginning to develop behind. Very nice. Go large in that working trot sitting, just like that. Keep him right there. Try to bring those hands up and together just a little bit. Just keep him active. Shoulder in, down the next long side. Good job, but we can see that his muscles are starting to wane a little bit, so back into rising trot and give him a stretch here in front of us. So he started to look like he was fatiguing there a little bit, so we're going to come back to a stretch, let those muscles stretch out again, let the blood flow back through again. And most importantly, get him swinging in deep under his body again. Remember, to do lateral work with the horse all shortened up has absolutely no value whatsoever. The only thing it will do is lame your horse. So while dressage is the best thing for horses if you know how to do it correctly, it's probably the worst thing for horses if you don't. If you're forcing a horse against the bridle with draw reins or all the various devices that people use these days and holding them there forever until they completely collapse their backs, well, then all the pressure of the movement goes into the hard tissue. Again, the point of getting a horse over its back is it puts the shock absorbers on the horse. Very nice. Now bring him back up, developing the working trot again. And go large. Go all the way around to the other side and change the rein across the next diagonal. That is from the other side, and lengthen on the diagonal rising. Once again, not the biggest lengthening you can do, just get a sense of an impulse forward through the body of the horse to the bed. And working trot sitting again. Up and together a little bit more, shortening your reins a little bit. Go large and shoulder in, coming down the next long side. Now you will hear people arguing that if you ride horses in the stretch that they'll never come up. Obviously you can see from this horse that is not true. Quite the opposite. If you don't ride them in the stretch, they'll never bring their backs up unless you do it in tension, as the people do who roll for horses when they strangle them and then drive them crazy with legs and whips until they're very active to get them underneath themselves. But that destroys the entire horse, just like any other athlete. Once again, shoulder in on the next long side. If you work in tension, you're going to get injured. Beautiful working trot here. That's more like it there. Good rhythm now. Very nice. Excellent. Keep that as you go large. And now the hardest thing for this horse, which we're just starting to work on, is the half pass. So go large, turn down the center line at the top, and half pass to the right. So he's just beginning to learn this. How he does today in the trot. Good. And while he resisted a little bit there in the beginning, that was really quite nice. Go ahead and give him a stretch now in the trot. You can see losing his hind legs there a little bit. Let's stretch him all the way down. So every time we see that, that tells me he's probably fatiguing a little bit, so we're going to give him a little stretch. And that exercise of the half pass is the hardest thing that he does in his day. And develop the working trot again. Working trot sitting. Go large, and from the center line, down the center line, half pass to the left. And notice how Amber really gets the horse up and under herself before she sits on it. Good, not bad at all. For a horse just learning this, that's quite good. Now, keep him up a little bit. Now do a little bit of a medium trot sitting on this long side, then we're going to go back and do the half pass to the right again. So now we'll ask him for a little bit more to come through a little bit more in that medium trot. And once again, half pass to the right. Much better that time. Beautiful. Now that for him was very good. Still a little unsteady in the bridle for a few steps, but not bad at all. Medium trot down the next long side. And again down the center line, lay a half pass to the left. There. Much better. Now for him, that was a good improvement in both directions. And so we'll rise to the trot and give him a stretch again. We can go all the way down. Beautiful. Now the stretch is really getting deep. Really starting to swing over his back. Very nice. And develop the working trot again as you go large. Working trot sitting once you get that. And canter right lead in the middle of the short side and circle. Now you'll notice him finesse him into the canter. He was the horse that always wanted to throw his head straight up in the air. So if you go back and look at our previous canters, you'll see that that's improved a great deal. This is a horse that's just now getting to the point where he can actually canter in a dressage ring. Shoulder in down the next long side. Now serpentine of 3 loops with no changes. Very nicely done. Now stretch the canter on the circle up there. That's a very difficult exercise for this horse. He's very big and his canter was very strung out. He's just starting to get under himself in the canter now. And we'll let him stretch all the way down. Remember that we must be able to stretch our horses in all 3 gaits. Very nice. Bring him back up and develop the canter as you go large. Develop the working canter again. And lengthen the canter down the next long side. Remember, it is always important to work your lengthenings in all 3 gaits. Very nice, like that. Beautiful. Go large, in the middle of this long side, working trot sitting. Very nice downward transition, hands up and together. And now rise and give him a stretch again. So for him, that was very good. The counter canter has been something he's just been working on, and that was really good for him today. So we don't need to repeat that. That was better than he normally does it. So that shows me a good improvement. No need to do it again. Can't make anything perfect in a day. If we do, we drive the horse crazy. Probably ourselves as well. A good dressage rider is like a chess player. We're thinking way ahead, thinking years ahead of what the horse is going to be if we work him like this, instead of trying to get everything in a day. Beautiful. Change across the diagonal in that stretch. Just keep that going. So for him, all of that was a good improvement. Develop the working trot again on the circle. Working trot sitting. One more circle, and when you come back to the center, canter. Good, very nice. Now notice he did not throw his head at all that time. Go large and shoulder in on the long side. We immediately established that relationship of the inside leg into the outside rein by doing the shoulder in. Serpentine of 3 loops with no changes. Very good. Now, we had been working on flying changes with him, which had gotten him a little bit anxious about the counter canter. Beautiful. Go large and lengthen the canter. At that time, he did that beautifully. You could see how he tried. He was thinking about trying to do a flying change there, but she kept him in it and didn't get it. So that was really beautiful that time. Circle here and bring him back to a working trot sitting. And just balance him in that working trot sitting. He's running just a little bit there. Good. Up. And now give him another stretch. Stretching in the trot. Now, we have only done flying changes a couple of times with this horse, but we're going to try him again today since we got the counter canter so well. So what happened after the first couple of times we did the flying changes, all of a sudden the counter canter becomes very difficult, and that's very normal. So it's more natural, really, for the horse to do a flying change than to counter canter once it's balanced enough to do so. So we had to get the counter canter straightened out before we could go back to the flying changes again. That is to get him to stop anticipating it. Beautiful. And get that big stretch and slow there. Good. So we'll try it again today and see what happens. So bring him up in the working trot again. Develop your working trot sitting. And whenever you're ready, canter.
What are we going to try?
We're going to do flying changes. Canter again. Up. Notice he likes to lift that head up a little bit, but we don't worry about that. That's coming around. That's getting easier every day. Go large. And from the other long side, you're going to take the short diagonal and do a flying change just before the rail. The only thing to doing flying changes is simply all you're doing is asking for the canter in the opposite direction and letting the horse change the bend and changing the position of your aids. That's all there is to it, really. Now, sometimes we have to be a little more forceful when we're first asking. It has to be a little more coercive. And let's see how he does. Right there. Very nice. Beautifully done. Beautiful. Bring him back to a trot and stretch him on the circle here. Now you can see how his frame opened up a little bit when he did that, but that was no big deal. He changed on through and was clean. That's what we're looking for in the early stages. Very nice. That was beautiful. Bring him back up in the working trot. And working trot sitting. And whenever you're ready, canter right lead. Very nice. Go large. And same thing in the opposite direction. So coming across the diagonal on the short diagonal and do the flying chains just before the rail. Good job. Now he was half a stride late behind, but he got through and he was clean after that, so that's okay. Circle here. And bring him back to a trot sitting on the circle. That was good enough for today. Not perfect because he was half a stride late behind. But once again, this is only the third time he's tried doing flying changes. I'm perfectly happy with that. Go large, come down the center line and halt at X. Now when we halt, you want to stretch up. So many people today halt by jamming their weight down into the horse like they're trying to do a sliding stop in the Western horse. It's not at all how a horse should be halted. You should stretch up so that you can lighten your seat and allow the hind leg to come forward. When you sit, when you do it that way, almost always the horses will usually halt square. Just like that. Beautiful. And pat him on the neck. Very, very well done. Walk up to the camera. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. I hope you've enjoyed this full lesson today with Amber. Come on down, Amber, and say hello. And of course, as we always do, we always give the horse a little something in the ring. There has to be something for them in this, so a little bit of a treat, a sugar cube or something goes a long way to making them want to come out and work this hard the next time around. All right, thank you very much. This is Will Faerber with Amber Matusik and our good buddy Legolas. We'll see you next time.